On this week's episode, it's a. Did I say on this week's? Okay, I'm gonna try it again. On this week's episode, it's a big win for Aquaman. But should we start saying DC's on the right track? The best and worst in TV for 2018. And what do we think about the return of Hellboy and MIB? All this and more as we once again delve into. No, I'm sorry. Merry Christmas! As we once again delve into the pop culture cosmos. Almost forgot when this was being played. And we're back with another episode of the pop culture cosmos. My name is Gerald Glass. My name is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our programs. But it wouldn't be a Pop Culture Cosmos without the merry elf himself. It's he runs a he's the man in charge at Humanica Media. You got to check out everything today at humanicamedia.com, Humanica Media on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and so much more. It is my good friend. It is Josh Peterson. Man, all I can say to you right now, because I'm trying to get through this with my head cold, is Merry Christmas, my friend.
During the holidays, we're actually Elf Mannequin Media. It's all right, common mistake, but yeah. And hey, I'm glad you're on here, man. Toughing it out. You need to get some rest, dude. Just what's that thing they say? You put your blanket over your head and breathe in hot stuff. What is that? Medicinal herbs. You breathe it
Something,
in over a
yeah,
pot.
some type of medicinal herbs. And in the state of Nevada, you can buy a lot of those medicinal herbs now.
Oh
But
yeah. No, it's
I
just
did say, I will say, I just had a bowl of hot ramen. Kind of did the trick for about 5 minutes, but we'll just slug through it. It's now past. It's now in the past, and we'll just have to go from there and gut it out. I will say that there is no time to rest because pop culture is still going strong, and we're going to talk about it here in a minute. But a little bit of house cleaning before we do. I want to say first off to Josh and everyone out there, I wanted to mention that Valley Heart. We talked a little about the band in the previous episode, but I wanted to say again and reiterate exactly how good their music is. If you really enjoy it, because yes, they do have a lot of controversial lyrics that a lot of people like Josh and I get into as far as it's concerned, as far as the meaning and the depth of it, and really makes you think. So if you're like that and you want to go ahead and listen to some good hard edge rock music, go ahead and listen to Valley Heart. They're available now on YouTube, Spotify, Pandora, Play Music, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Apple Music, and a lot more. So give them a listen to today. We truly appreciate it if you would. And I'm sure the guys at Valley Heart would too. Like I said, if you're really into some hard edge rock music, give them a listen. And then last, as far as the house cleaning goes, I want to mention that the My Charge backpack, the My Charge battery pack for the Nintendo Switch review is now up and online at popculturecosmos.com and popculturecosmos.wordpress.com. In my review that I gave real quickly on our last episode, I mentioned it was started around 3 hours extra of battery power for the Nintendo Switch. It's actually depending on how long you charge the actual My Charge itself beforehand, because it has a handy USB cable to hook up to whether it's the docking station or laptop or computer or whatever you've got as far as the USB connection is concerned. You could get anywhere from, it says up to 10 when you go ahead and check it out on their Amazon page, but I got more of like 3 to 9 depending on the different types of charges. And for me, that was just awesome because I've used other stuff that like that as far as extra batteries for other devices, and they've gotten me nowhere near that. So I was very happy with 3 to 9 extra hours depending on the level of charge that I was going ahead and doing at. So I wanted to make sure and clarify that out there. If you want to take a look at a good deal for an extended battery to extend your playtime on the Nintendo Switch, check it out today. My Charge for the My Charge that's on the My Charge for the Nintendo Switch that's available now on Amazon, and you can check out my full review on popculturecosmos.com. It is going to be a great episode we have here today for you. We've got a lot to talk about when it comes to the box office because Aquaman and a lot of other movies debuted just truly in the middle of that awesome 7-day period for the movies that's out there. We're also going to get thoughts from the ladies from the Wine, Women, and Words, Michelle Levis and Diana Tierney. They're going to share their thoughts on the top 5 for them in 2018. And also, speaking of the top and bottom of 2018, um, Jessica Boggs from the TVRatingsGuide.com. She's also stopping by with the best and worst that both she and I are going to share as far as television in 2018. We're also going to be talking about MIB International, Hellboy. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later on. And if Josh, in the middle of the program, is also going to share his thoughts on some great music that he also wrote about on PopCultureCosmos.com. So, my friend, you and I both saw Aquaman this weekend. First off, I want to tell everybody it did about $72 million domestically here at the box office, which is very strong. No, it isn't quite as big of the openings as, let's say, like the Batman versus Superman and a couple of the others that have come in the DC universe. But from all appearances, Warner Brothers and DC is very happy with the success so far of Aquaman. It's been a big hit overseas, and it is now nearing $500 million worldwide. And that's pretty good for something that's only been out, depending on where you're at, as little as 1 week to 3 weeks. So I ask you, Josh, your thoughts on Aquaman. Is it worth all the hype? Is it worth all the fact that it's number one at the box office? And is it worth being a potential big hit and that's going to rectify a lot of things in the DC universe?
Yes and no. Aquaman is it's a fun movie, you know, the same way we saw like Guardians of the Galaxy 1. That was a fun movie, right? Is a property that, you know, we always knew about Aquaman. We knew, you know, people who like the Justice League, and you know, he has that famous comic book arc where he almost killed the Justice League by getting them involved in the affairs of the Atlanteans. But no, it's a fun movie. Jason Momoa plays the part really well. It's one of those things you don't really have to think about it. You can just kind of watch it and be. It's a visual feast. There's a lot of like just the coloring is cool, the acting's well done. Um, you know, there's not a lot of plot holes. There's some plot holes, but there's not a lot. But my big thing coming out of it was that okay, well, if there's no more Batman and there's no more Superman, at least in the DC universe right now, and if talk of rebooting the DC universe is true, then why are they making this? Why are they making Aquaman? And what if it's successful? Are they just going to retcon this? And what about Wonder Woman? Like, it all needs to tie into something bigger if it's going to, you know, if they're going to keep making these movies, if that makes sense.
Well, they did mention it real briefly as far as a hint to what is happened in the past in the Justice League. They mentioned it real briefly at a certain point in time near the beginning of the picture. Spoilers for you out there. But the thing is, I want to also say that they didn't really go into much as far as extending the DC universe because I think that's the overall state of Warner Brothers. It's in that kind of flux where they see the good things that they have in Aquaman and Wonder Woman, and they're going to continue those parts of it, but they really don't have a real grasp or an idea of what's going in the overall picture, especially with Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck most likely being out of the picture, although Jason Momoa says otherwise. But I'm going to have to say for now, it looks like they probably are out of the picture. And it just accentuates the fact that I was talking to my family, and it accentuates the fact that there was nothing trying to that actually built up the extended part of the universe, and it was just very self-contained. Otherwise, which in the case of a lot of people, they seem to like the fact that it was self-contained. It wasn't serving a higher purpose. I kind of like those tie-ins at some point in time to other parts of the DC universe. I still of the Justice, I'm still of the mindset from the Justice League. The Justice League was not a great movie. Okay, I get that. In fact, a lot of people thought it was a bad movie. I thought it was all right. It was all right. It is what it is. But I like the part where at the end of Justice League, spoilers again, that if that the part where they were talking about assembling a league of villains, and I think there was a golden opportunity to go ahead and accentuate that and really build that up as far as at some point in time in the film, and they really didn't do that. They focused on what they could work on because of such there because there's so much that's because there's so much out there within the DC universe that they're not sure of. So I guess in actuality it is a smart move. They know what they have right now in Aquaman. They know what they have in Wonder Woman, and they just go ahead and will do self-contained stories until they can realize exactly what's going on and finalize what's going on in the DC universe. So I guess in the mindset that's great, but for people like you and I who want to see it tie into a bigger thing, for me, I really would love to see the Justice League against the Hall of Villains. I would love to see that matchup like like I saw back in the old days on the old Justice League cartoons. That probably at this point in time will not come to fruition. I'm kind of disappointed that they had their opportunity to go ahead and extend that. But as far as the picture is concerned, let's get back to that. Aquaman, to me, like you said, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of stuff going on, CGI everywhere, battles galore, nonstop stuff going on. It doesn't stop to really make you think. It doesn't go in depth, but it doesn't go into a dark place that other parts of the DC universe has done. And I think that's a brilliant move by James Wan and Warner Brothers to not go heavy into the dark territory. They went and they went for something light, and I think in that sense it's really paid off with a movie that's, like you said, just a lot of popcorn fun.
Yeah, right, right, and it still manages to keep, a somewhat serious tone. Like, you can tell there's something on the line with all these characters. It's not nonstop jokes. It's not what Joss Whedon did to Justice League, but it's fun. It's a good time, but it's not all completely comedic. Like, it's still got that tone, not the dark tone, but it's still got a tone that makes you think, okay, like this is an epic flick. Like, something can happen in this universe still.
Well, that's Jason Momoa to a T. It would have really not been a very good movie if he just goes off and stops doing one-liners and stops trying to do a comeback and starts just becoming all noble. If he'd have just at the beginning just been the exact opposite of what he's portrayed in the Aquaman character so far, and just been Mr. Noble right off the get-go, you don't even really have much of an Aquaman movie. So I the reason why this movie works so well, I think, is because of Jason Momoa's character throughout, a reluctant hero, a person that's not going to, a person that understands what's going on, a person that sees what's going on, but still is trying to believe that, for him, does he really need to take that next step to be exactly what everybody wants him to be? Or does he want to go ahead and just face reality that a lot of people were presenting to him and just go ahead and, just be that as it may, just go ahead and turn his back on both humanity and the world of Atlantis. So I'll tell you what,
Wolverine.
yeah, Wolverine, exactly. When worst comes to worst, he's still going to give you one-liners. He's still going to go ahead and give you a lot of stuff that's going to go ahead and charm, and it's going to be very funny. So I liked his performance, that he was staying away from those, he was staying away from being too serious, and only when he needed to be serious was he going to go ahead and be that individual. I'm just glad the fact he was still true to his Aquaman character. That was pretty much one of the few highlights in Justice League.
Oh, I agree, but there was something magical about the balance that this movie walked in terms of tone and atmosphere, that it seems like that's something they could use to bring people back into this universe, though. Like, and I'm kind of seeing the same thing in Shazam. But, in terms of, even with Batman, like, there is a line that Batman can walk. Like, what was it that made Chris Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy so good, was that Christian Bale did know how to walk that line. He knew, like, they had moments in there where the comedy was well placed, but they also had moments in there when there was something on the line, but he wasn't overly broody. There's a balance, and, like, they have failed to find that balance, it seems, up until this point.
Oh, yes, you're right. Yes, you're right on that. And I tell you what, it's just a fun popcorn flick. Like I said, it doesn't get too heavy in depth. It doesn't get too, I guess, it doesn't get dark. It just does the right amount of what it needs to do in continuing the Aquaman part of it. No, it doesn't do much for extending the DC universe. And for those like you and I who like to see that bigger picture, it doesn't do that much of it. But I tell you what, within a self contained Aquaman world, it does a lot. And of course, it sets its up. It sets itself up for maybe some stuff in the future for Aquaman 2 or even more. Who knows? But I will tell you, $500 million just about worldwide in what 2 to 3 weeks right now of release. It's done a great job so far, and I see it becoming a bigger part of the DC universe going forward. Don't you?
Yeah, if anything, like Aquaman has leadership qualities, and there are a lot of good comic book arcs that feature him and other members of the Justice League, not all necessarily together. So there's a lot of places they can go if they want to rebuild back into something that could resemble an extended universe. But the movie was fun. Like I liked it. I liked just the fights were huge and they were fun to watch. It wasn't like super violent. They're epic, I guess, is the word I'm looking for.
So let me ask you this. Can we now start saying, with the success of Wonder Woman last year and the success of Aquaman, seemingly, unless it totally falls off the rails, which I don't think it will, do you see the DC universe finally, and I mean finally, on a consistently right track? Because yes, Justice League was in between them, and that was a misstep, no doubt about it. But from this point forward, can we now have more faith and confidence? More, can we have now? Can we believe now that there's more faith and can we have more faith and confidence in the in Warner Brothers and the DC universe going along a little bit more smoothly and heading in a good direction?
Let's not jump the gun here, but I think they're taking a step in the right direction, and that's what really matters because Aquaman is doing very well with audiences. People love the character, people love Jason Momoa. And if they're somehow able to figure out what worked in this movie and apply it to their other films, I think they could possibly have something good moving forward.
I hope so. I hope so. You and I have been talking about it ad nauseum as far as the DC universe. I know Rob McCallum and I always bring up the DC universe and Warner Brothers missteps on almost every Cosmic Crossfire full edition that we do. So it would be awesome if we could actually see a light at the end of the tunnel for the DC movie universe. And I think for a lot of people, that would be awesome as well. What are your thoughts out there on Aquaman? Did you enjoy it? Did you not like it at all, or do you have any plans to go see it? And do you like the fact that it was more self-contained and not a bigger part of the DC movie universe? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also, as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, and Game Source on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. Do you like the fact that it was not trying to go ahead and extend the DC universe? All right. Excuse me. Before we head to the break, we also got to talk about what happened the rest of this weekend. I'll tell you what, it was a close battle with Mary Poppins Returns and Bumblebee. And your thoughts on Bumblebee? And the reason why I ask for that is, even though it looked like third place just barely this weekend at the domestic box office, it is by far and away the lowest opening for a Transformers related movie, even though it got the highest ratings ever from critics. Your thoughts on Bumblebee, and do you think this is something where people are getting tired of the actual Transformers whole line? I think they were already getting tired of it already, but unless China really does something good, unless the Chinese market and overseas market really does something good for Bumblebee, uh, even though it has a lot of great ratings, it could be a misstep for the Transformer franchise.
I'm still baffled as to why that movie's doing so good. Like, I'll have to go see it because I'm genuinely interested in it. As for the whole lineup of Transformers, I think this. I would go as far as to say this is a more intimate movie. It has just one transform. I think one or two Transformers, but whereas before, you had all these new robots, a lot of robots no one really even knew about, a lot of explosions, not a lot of character development. If And what we've seen with Bumblebee is that you can develop a robot, you can develop character in a Transformer. But in the other movies, they didn't really do that, with the exception of Bumblebee and a little bit of Optimus Prime. Other than that, it was just explosions. So it sounds like this one's got a lot of more of a story and character development working in its favor. And there's not like it's not huge on the scale that the other ones are. So you have time to kind of dive into the stories about and who these people are, what they mean to each other, how this is all going on, the backstory and all that. So there's a lot of things that are working in in Bumblebee's favor, and I really do want to find out what it is. But how do you feel about it? Are you going to go see it? Do you have any interest?
I will probably for me, it's probably gonna be a wait until home video, because I've never been a big fan of the Transformer franchise. I really just have been down on the series overall because I thought the studio gave Michael Bay the keys to the car, and he just took off with it, and it was great for a while, and it's great while it lasted and made them a lot of money, but you saw diminishing returns time over time, and it's kind of ironic. They're now getting far and away the best reviews ever for a Transformer related film. And unfortunately, it's doing the least business of it. So it's kind of sad in that retrospect, because if had they made Bumblebee sooner, it probably would have reinvigorated the franchise and possibly saved it from a declining value that we've seen so far in the past few years with the most recent Transformer releases before Bumblebee. I will say that as I said before, I think the movie will find a profit somewhere, because the Transformer movies in the Far East and also Europe have also found the in the Far East and Europe have found an audience, and they've actually supported the Transformer movies in and each and every one of them much better than the North American marketplace. So I will see. So I am going to see a profit turn. So I do see a profit turn on Bumblebee. Hopefully, we will see something more from the Bumblebee in the future. But I'm not going to go. It's not something I really want to go ahead and see in the theaters, because at this point in time, I got to go ahead and make sure I've got everything down for well, you know what? I actually may get a chance to see it, because the fact is, it is one of the best review movies of the year. And you know what? If we got to go ahead and get our top 10 list, I may actually have to sneak it in there on second thought.
Same. Same. Oh, that's right, man. It's funny because I've seen a lot of movies this week on home video. Venom, Predator, House with the Clock in the Walls. And I am only watching them for the sake of our end of the year podcast. So maybe I'll get out there and see it too. Who knows?
That's what I'm thinking about on second thought. You're right. I've actually seen quite a few films myself so far. I got to see, of note, Roma, Won't You Be My Neighbor, Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse, and Aquaman here in recent days. So I will be knocking a few more off my list before we go ahead and evaluate on next week's Pop Culture Cosmos show, when we talk about our top films of the year and also our bottom one. So I'm actually going to have to sit through a few of those as well, unfortunately. So either which way, we're going to go ahead and on next Monday's show talk about the bad and the good in film in 2018. So I'm looking forward to that. So we're knocking out as much as we can when it comes to that right there. One last thing before we head on out, I'm going to wrap up with Mary Poppins Return. Mary Poppins Returns, doing a little bit above 22 million here domestically in the box office. It looks like it's going to do okay, like we were thinking. Maybe what two 250 $300 million worldwide, maybe even a little bit more when all is said and done. I'm hopeful for that, for anybody who just wanted to go ahead and catch Mary Poppins, as far as that type of film for audiences. um, but the one movie that sticks out, well, the two movies that stick out is Second Act, like we were talking about, a rom-com in which I thought was really mistimed. It debuted at with 6.5 million, and excuse me, and Welcome to Marwen, that only debuted with $2 million at the box office domestically. What a disappointment that is. Reviews are awful on it. And while this will not be a killer for Steve Carell as a leading man in a movie, I don't think by that. I don't think at that. I don't think it will by any stretch because I think people just didn't know about it and probably will just have forgotten about it by this time. The one I'm worried about, having this be a holdover for him is Robert Zemeckis, who's made so many outstanding films over the years, uh, including the including the Back to the Future, including the Back to the Future series, and also he's made Forrest Gump, What Lies Beneath, Contact, Castaway, The Polar Express, which was just on TV a little while ago, especially during the holiday season. He's made quite a few hit movies, and this could be the type of film that really just takes it entirely off the chain and will not allow him to do any big projects in the future. Your thoughts on something like this affecting a big name director like Robert Zemeckis?
I don't really think that it's his fault. I don't, because I'd be more than willing to go watch the movie, but the issue was that it wasn't marketed very well. There weren't hardly any trailers out for it, and by the time I saw a trailer, I had completely forgotten about it, and all of a sudden, hey, it's out in theaters. Like, I think it suffered from the same lack of marketing that, like, John Carter of Mars suffered from a little bit. I'd be curious to see what the average moviegoer, if they knew about it, if they went to go see it, I'd be curious to know their thoughts on it. As for Robert Zemeckis, I think the man's done enough good stuff in cinema where he can get away with having a flop or two, and it's not, and it really is, and he has a secret weapon at his disposal, right? It's just go back and make that Back to the Future 4 that he swore he would never make. So he's got an ace up his sleeve. And he's on his way out, and maybe he's fighting like Ridley Scott to try to get the last of those ideas out of his head before it's too late. But I think this movie just suffered from poor marketing, and that's not the fault of Steve Carell or Robert Zemeckis.
I have a tendency to agree with you on that. I blame the studio, but also as well, it just maybe it should have been packaged in a different way. Maybe it should have gone straight to home video like they did with the Cloverfield Paradox. If they saw the signs coming that it would not be an awards winner or even award getter and actually would get some of the worst reviews of the year, they should have gone ahead and maybe seen the for what it was and maybe put it on Netflix and maybe hyped it up that way because it sure paid off for the Cloverfield Paradox, which we may be talking about on next week's show, and maybe not for the best of reasons. But I will say that I agree with you. I agree with you indeed that it doesn't look like it will probably be the end for Steve Carell as the leading man, or or Robert Zemeckis as a director. So we're going to go. I think they both should at least get another try in the big seat and see where we go from there. Well, coming up next, we've got the ladies from the Wine, Women, and Words, Diana Tierney and Michelle Davis. They're going to go ahead and share us their thoughts on the top five of 2018. Josh will be coming up right after that with his thoughts on the music scene for 2018. And then we're going to go ahead with Jessica Boggs from the TV Ratings Guide. She's going to share her best and worst, and so will I, on TV in 2018. And then right after that, we're going to close out the show talking Hellboy and MIB. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. If I can only breathe through my nose. And we're back with the Pop Culture Cosmos. This is Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here. If you need a listing of where we're being played at on the radio around the world, you just check out our site, Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook. It's got a listing right there, or our site, popculturecosmos.com. It also has many of the podcast options that we're on. Just found out the other day we're on Bullhorn, and I didn't even know it. So that's another one of the over 30 different podcast outlets that we're on as well. My friend, you've got an amazing experience known as Humanica Media. So share us the goods, my friend. What's going on with Humanica Media?
New Topic Apocalypse is out, and there's another episode going up tomorrow. It's our Christmas episode. Other than that, we got some things going on behind the scenes, and keep following us on Facebook, and you'll know about them soon enough.
Any Inside Sports, or did I miss? I thought I inside.
They've been posting them themselves, so I don't really know how well edited those are going to be.
Ooh. Okay. All right. I'll have to find out the dirt on that later. I'll edit that part out. Once again, that's Humanica Media at humanicamedia.com, and also check out Humanica Media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. My friend, along with listening to Valley Heart and talking some great things about them, you also got a chance to go ahead and elaborate on your thoughts on the music scene for 2018. So, along with everybody checking out your article on popculturecosmos.com, I want to hear your thoughts, man, on the music scene for 2018.
Yes, hold on. I have my list here. Let me click on it. So I just, I didn't buy as many albums this year as I usually do. So I have maybe like I want to say 10 that I've purchased, and I'm really digging. Some I didn't dig so much, but
All I say, well, hold on. All I say is, you're lucky this isn't 30 years ago, man. When there was no Napster, when there was no downloading, when there was no Apple Music, when there was nothing like that, when it was tapes, 12-inch tapes, 12-inch records, and full albums and cassettes and compact discs had just come out, my friend. So
your Walkmans were like a briefcase.
pretty much, yeah. It was quite interesting. I had the old Sanyo tape deck right there for you. Quality sound, and it sounded like this.
It's closer to the source, man.
Dolby NR, Dolby NR.
All right, so here's a few of the ones that I purchased this year. I got Atreyu's In Our Wake. It's not the it's not the Atreyu that I grew up with, but it's pretty close, and they've been trying for a long time to get back to that sound. If you're a fan of Avenged Sevenfold and Under Oath, the last song in that album features the vocal talents of M Shadows and Aaron Gillespie. Bears Den, Camp, Casey. So Casey is an interesting one because Casey, it's I want to say post-hardcore, but they kind of sing about mental illness, and that's kind of like it's the only album I've ever purchased that's actually like made me get close to crying because it's just it's good, it's intimate and it's vulnerable. Coheed and Cambria's new album was pretty good. They went back to the Amory Wars. I know we've talked about that before. You got Corey Wells. Def Havana put out a new album. And I don't know if they're as big here as they are in the UK, but it's kind of a departure from their last album. It's more poppy sounding. Foxing is a good one. I know I've talked to you about Foxing before. I got God of War on this list also, like the God of War soundtrack. Have you listened to it?
I've heard bits and pieces of it, obviously from playing the game, and then also as well been able to stream it online a little bit. It's definitely epic.
Oh, it's good. Yeah, and it's no wonder like God of War went home with so many awards at the Game of the Year awards. Okay, so Hope, our friends over at Hope's Fall, their album is definitely in my top 5 for this year. It's they somehow managed to retain the sound that they've always had, but improve it, and also kind of improve the genre that they've become famous for over the years. Um, and that's that's saying a lot because it's kind of that type of music is in a renaissance right now, and like to be a band that's over 10 years old. I want to say they're maybe 15, 20 years old, but like they're just to be able to make a comeback like that, like that's no small feat. Okay, so New Year Memorial's another one you should check out. Honestly, you guys can click on this article on our website, but I got Pine Grove. I know we're divided on them. Thrice has a new album out, and I know people still they're kind of another band that came around the same time as Hope's Fall. Valley Heart. So we talked about Valley Heart. Definitely go check out that album. And then last on the list, I got the Young Hearts, and they just have an EP out that's 5 songs, but you can pick it up for $4 on iTunes. It's worth checking out if you like bands like Story of the Year and Hawthorne Heights. But no, definitely, I recommend if you have some time, go check out my music of my 2018 album list because it does. I do give some thoughts on each of the albums and what I thought about them, and even they're kind of little mini reviews, but check it out if you want to know more. I can go on about it, but I don't want to take up too much time.
Way to send that out, my friend. I don't want to take up too much time.
Well, I mean,
No worries.
I could talk about those albums for like an entire episode. So I just, I want to make it. We got to talk about other things, right? So
Exactly. That should be a Topicocalypse episode right there for you.
right, right, exactly.
There you go. There you go, my friend. All right. That is his list of 2018 of the music that has really moved him. If you've got thoughts on any of those albums that he's talked about and written about on popculturecosmos.com, or you have ideas yourself on what moved you in the music world in 2018, share us your thoughts. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Also, as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanity Media, and Game Source on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. Well, coming up next, we've got Jessica Box from the TVRatingsGuide.com. She's going to be talking about, and of course, me as well, about the best and worst in TV, the best and worst in TV in 2018. And then after that, real quick, Josh and I are going to close it out with our thoughts on MIB International and Hellboy. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. And we're back to close out the show. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. Want to thank Diana Tierney and Michelle Levis from the Wine Women and Words podcast. You got to check out their podcast today on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and so many other podcast outlets. And also, as well, want to thank Jessica Boggs from the TVRatingsGuide.com for her thoughts on the best and worst in television in 2018. Before we head on out, my friend, there were two trailers that almost went under the radar in many ways in this big, huge week as far as for movies this week. You know what, man? But we got to talk about them. That's MIB International, and of course, something that really touches your mind when it comes to it, and that is Hellboy. So I want to hear your thoughts, my friend, because we kind of differ, I believe, on Hellboy. Are you glad to see it back, and are you glad to see someone else playing the role?
I am ecstatic to see it back. And like, yeah, I agree with you. David Harbour is not wouldn't have been my number one choice for Hellboy. I enjoyed Ron Perlman in that part. Like, I thought he was
Ron Perlman made that part. Ron Perlman got me interested in the Hellboy series, in the Hellboy comic books. So that's to me, that's just
well,
that's just
from what I understand, they approached him about it, and he said he only wanted to work with do finish Guillermo's thing. If I read the news headlines correctly, or not.
well, they're so closely aligned together. Anything, it seems like he does. For instance, Pacific Rim. He's in that. I mean, it's just a great working relationship between each other. I could see why he didn't want to continue it.
Like the Depp Burton relationship.
Yeah, something like that.
No, but like this Hellboy, David Harbour aside, and I honestly I don't think he's gonna make a terrible Hellboy. You could tell he's not quite used to the makeup just by the way his mouth moves when he talks. But no, I love how dark this one is though. It's not because Guillermo took a more like fantastic approach to things. It's more fantasy oriented, whereas this one kind of dives into the nitty gritty of what makes Hellboy who he is. He's this creature who's destined to destroy the earth, but he rages against his own destiny, and in the process of figuring out who he is, he's fighting all these creatures. He's going up against the forces of darkness and just watching the trailer, like there's a lot of stuff from the comic books that I almost see that they almost played out panel for panel, like the part with the two giants and this one, from what I understand, this one's about the Blood Queen, and she's kind of the doorway to the rest of the Hellboy universe. So if this is going to play out the way I think it is, they might be setting something big up. And what's cool about this one is Mike Mignola is producing it, so he's got a lot more say in what's going on, and where the characters are going. And I'm pretty sure that he wrote the screenplay. So who knows Hellboy better than the person who created him?
I'll tell you what, it looked good. The trailer itself looked good. I love the scenic atmosphere. I think the actual visual look was better than what Guillermo del Toro, what he could work with. I think obviously there were resources involved and whatnot, but I think from a visual standpoint, it looked better than what the previous Hellboy iterations were doing. My only problem is that besides the fact that Ron Perlman is not the one spewing out the one-liners, just didn't seem very natural enough for David Harbour as of yet. But I will also add this into it in the fact that I also kind of wanted to see more creatures alongside of Hellboy because that's what I was used to. And I didn't see that. It was just all humans that were trying to go ahead and interact with Hellboy. And that I was kind of disappointed by. And I was hoping to see more of that creature interaction as far as the actual Hellboy army, so to speak. Not to part use that as a pun from the previous movie that was out there, but it was kind of nice to see those mystical creatures that were a part of the Hellboy universe as far as on the good guy side. They were nowhere to be seen in the trailer, at least as of yet.
Yeah, but they're also not in the comic books. Like Guillermo took a lot of liberties with Hellboy when he's working on his movies, and I love them. You know, they were good. But you know, if you I've read the comic books. I've read the whole series and I love the series and I try to read it once a year, but it's all very very dark and what more aligns him with you know, with good is the people he works with in the BPRD, the Bureau for Paranormal Research and Defense. So you have your uh I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time remembering the characters' names now, but they have the team, you know, they have Liz Sherman and you have the Hans, I think the guy's name is, who's made out of gas, and you have the there's one guy, he's a homunculus, and I don't know, I didn't see him in the trailer, but you know, you have all these characters and they kind of keep themselves honest, you know, while they're fighting like these incredibly dark and demonic things, and it's a cool dynamic to see light exist in such dark, you know, people with dark powers to find them choosing the side of light over, you know, evil in a world that is pretty much made up of dark and evil things.
Well, will be that as it may. We're going to be able to see a lot more Hellboy coming in 2019. I know you'll be looking forward to it, and you know what? I hope I will be looking forward to it too as more trailers come out and we get to see more behind the scenes of what's going on in the world of Hellboy. And last but not least, let's talk about MIB International. Your thoughts on MIB International with Tessa Thompson and Chris Hemsworth, and also as well Liam Neeson. So I want to hear your thoughts on this new trio going forward and battling aliens out there for the MIB.
You know, say what you want about Men in Black. Like a lot of people they like the first one, hate the second one, love the third one, whatever order you find that in. But they are fun movies to watch. They are, you know, they you don't go into them expecting a serious story. Men in Black kind of gave you that a little bit, but they're just fun to watch, you know, and it's I this one reminds me of what made Men in Black 1 so fun. Like, you have the outcast and you have the person who's overly good at their job, and you have the comedic, chops going on in there. A lot of stuff with Chris Hemsworth. It looks like he's kind of exercising the, you know, what the thing that made Thor funny in Ragnarok, right? Like, he has that ability to act on that ring.
And let me ask you this, because it does have him and Tessa Thompson, is it am I kind of like, I don't know, have my trepidations about it just because it reminds me too much of Thor Ragnarok?
I think they had good chemistry together, and it makes sense that they would want them both for this movie. Will they be able to recapture the magic? Who knows? But uh, it looks funny. Like it definitely looks funny, and like the I love the action parts that they showed with them, you know, making jokes, and it doesn't look like they're taking it too serious. Like they're taking themselves too seriously, and that's what makes me want to see this movie so bad.
Ah, just unbelievable at the worst times too. All right. Well, that's our thoughts on MIB International. Like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing that one and how it materializes well. Just worried about the playoff because they've already done such a great job of playing off each other, Tessa Thompson and Chris Hemsworth in Thor Ragnarok. I'm just interested to see if this will pan out just as well. What are your thoughts about Hellboy and MIB International? Are you interested to see back the Men in Black? Share us your thoughts on both Hellboy and MIB, Pop Culture Cosmos at yahoo.com, also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, and Game Source on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. Well, my friend, it's been a great episode. This week on the PCC Multiverse, we're going to be talking about our video games of the year, so I'm looking forward to that. Any last thought? Any last thoughts on the way out?
Honestly, guys, just have a great Christmas. It's been a fun year, and you'll hear from us before the year's over. But have a great Christmas, and I hope you get some of the games and movies and stuff you wanted to. And if you like them, you got some stuff we discussed on the show, feel free to email us. We'd love to hear about it, hear your thoughts, and we'd be happy to talk about it on the show.
We will indeed. And again, a Merry Christmas to you and everyone out there as well. Safe and happy holidays to all. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day.